Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. I'm Trevor Lane. He is Keith Smith. We've got a lot to get into on today's show. We've got the Wolves and the Mavs. The Wolves extend the series. There's going to be a game 5. We're going back to Minnesota, so we're going to talk a bit about that series. We'll talk about some of the news going around, some news already on contracts that could be offered coming up once free agency starts at the end of next month. So a lot of things for us to talk about on today's show. We also have little thing about Bronny James in the draft that just might matter a little bit. Just might matter. So, Keith, how are you doing? And I guess let's start with Wolves and Mavs.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not shocked that Minnesota stayed alive. They were in all of the other games. That's been the crazy thing about these conference finals. Both teams went up 3-0. Boston finished. Dallas didn't, but all the games were pretty close throughout. So the puppy's checking in here. So I don't know when I'm going to stop calling him a puppy. He's my dire wolf, man. This is it. He's the dire wolf here with this, but he is but with the Wolves, like they were in all those games. So you just need a cat to make some shots. And he did. They played pretty good defense. I thought Kyrie Irving was very open about the adjustment to putting Jaden McDaniels on him. Like said that it impacted me. He's like, that was a big change and we weren't really ready for it. And it was a big difference from the way they've played us all series. So that I like when players admit that stuff because usually it's like, it was all me. Right. I just missed shots. Like I was off. Like he admitted, like, hey, that threw me off my game. So I thought that was pretty cool of him to admit that. So all around, I still think Dallas wins, but I've said it before. I'll say it again. If a team is going to do this, it's going to be one that's in the position the Wolves are in, where you're a good team. There's been close games. Your stars haven't played well. They play better. You have home court advantage with 2 games left. And maybe we'll see. I still think Dallas takes care of business, but wouldn't shock me if this goes 6 now and Dallas gets back home because you're going to want to get that finished. I don't think you really want to go back to Minnesota twice if you can avoid it if you're the Mavs.
No, absolutely not. And now all eyes on Derek Lively, his health, to see if he's able to come back for game 5 or not. Maxi Kleba made his return in game 4, and I thought looked pretty good. He was more mobile than I expected him to be out there after missing the last few weeks dealing with that shoulder issue. But he looked pretty good. So Maxi Kleba returning could be a big thing for Dallas. But overall, I thought Kyrie and part of it was McDaniels is one of the best defensive players in the NBA, but Kyrie, I mean, a stinker of a performance from him, just inefficient and not good, not a good night from Kyrie. Even had the game sealing turnover where he just threw the ball away. Not a good night from Kyrie. You'd expect a bounce back in game 5, but Cat, despite being in foul trouble, he stepped up, hit some big threes in the fourth quarter, and the Wolves survive. And that means we're going to see a game 5. And I have a feeling the NBA is not too disappointed. Adam Silver was probably thinking, oh my gosh, how many millions of dollars have we lost by all having these series in the conference finals end in 4? So now at least they'll get a game 5 out of this one.
Yeah, week and a half with no hoops too. And it just kind of, something falls out of the mindset. It falls out of the mindset. I am thankful. I don't know if I said it here or somewhere else, but I'm like, man, if they had swept, we were going to have I want to say it was 8 full days without any games. And we were going to be down to Luke Cornett versus Dwight Powell. Who wins that matchup? Where do we go there? And it's like, nobody needs that. So we're finally into a place where let's get another game in here, see what it looks like and go. And it's interesting. There's been a lot of stuff out there, rest versus rust. It's hard because this should allow presumably Boston not having to play Kristaps Porzingis. Sounds like he will be back. I know I think the report was he's got some hurdles to clear, but sounds like the expectation is he's going to be able to go for game 1 of the finals. But that's a tough spot to just drop in there game 1 and say, all right, knock all the rust off. So wouldn't be surprised if he's a little wonky there. But Al Horford should be coming in on very fresh legs, and clearly you can push his minutes if you need to. I've even had some people say, does Al Horford start and bring Porzingis off the bench? I think that gets a little galaxy brain. You haven't done that all year. Roll with your starting 5. But if Porzingis doesn't have it or something looks off, pull him early. Put Horford in and run that way. So I'm excited, man. I can't wait to get there, but I'm excited we get more games. You know how I get it this time of year, probably better than anybody else. I start to get a little melancholy because it's like we're down to almost single digit games left, the possibility. And I just want as many games as we can get. So let's go.
See, for me, it's after summer league. That's what I really, because after the finals, it's like, okay, but we've got, I mean, pedal to the metal. We're busier than ever after the finals end, right? That's the busiest time of year. It's the draft, it's free agency, it's trades. Once summer league ends, then it's like the real, oh my God, we have how long until there's another game? It's unfortunately we'll have Team USA this year. That will be our saving grace. But most years it's like, whew, looking at that calendar in August and September, it's a rough time. It's a rough time, Keith.
And it's funny, again, no one's shedding any tears for us, nor should they be. But people always say, we'll go on vacation in September. We can't. We have kids. Like, the kids are in school. Like, we can't just be like, all right, let's blow out of here and see you later.
I tried.
Like,
I tried to sell my wife on that the other day. I'm like, hey, what if we sneak in another vacation in September? And she's like, we can't pull her out of school. I'm like, come on. Nope.
Yeah. That's for me, it's I have a soon to be freshman, and it's like, hey, want to miss part of the first month of freshman year? The answer is already no. I know that. So it's like, it is what it is. This is don't get me wrong. I have underneath my quarter zip here, I have a pair of basketball shorts on down here. That's what I rock every single day, unless for some reason, God forbid, I need to put on pants. And then if I have to do that, such is life. And that's what wrecks my day more than anything. So I am not really complaining. I don't want anybody to think we're leading a rough life here.
Keith's day is ruined when he has to put on pants. That is getting clipped.
That will get I don't want to wear pants anymore. No more pants. I had to wear pants for 40 plus years. I don't want to do it anymore.
Well, that's understandable. I am wearing I wear, but now I'm at the point where I wear basketball shorts that don't match. Like that's what I don't even worry about whether or not they actually match the shirt that I'm wearing. Mine absolutely do not right now.
No, but, there's no. I think I have 70. I had to check. I have 76er shorts on right now. I got gifted a big box one year. It was actually during the pandemic of NBA shorts, simply because I made a comment of I like real NBA shorts because they're heavy. Like, I like those heavy shorts. And within 2-3 weeks, I get this box that was all different teams practice shorts. So that's pretty much what I wear almost every day. So
so just mention something and stuff shows up at your door.
Yeah, it doesn't work as often as you think.
I know. I really love yachts.
Yeah, right. Yeah. See, you went there. I was like, I was going to mention, I really like Starbucks. Can I get one of those Starbucks gold cards? That would be really nice. That has not worked out yet. No one has offered me free Chick-fil-A when they see drinking out of a Chick-fil-A cup on the show once in a while. So, but the basketball shorts were appreciated, and I'm very happy to have them. I also know they were phasing them out and getting rid of that style, so that's why I ended up with them. But I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me. A couple logos are wrong, but now you know what happens when the logos are wrong? They're retro, and now you move forward.
They're throwbacks.
Yep, that's it.
On a related note, subscribe to the Basketball Bulletin. I'm going to put the link in the description down below. It's our Substack, basketballbulletin.substack.com. We'll have some new stuff coming out there today, as well as a little video work that's going to be going on over there too. So make sure you guys go check that out. Hit that subscribe button over there on the basketballbulletin.substack.com, and that will help us get Keith that Starbucks that he's talking about.
All right. I can afford the Starbucks. I just want the gold card or whatever it is, where it's like Chad Ochocinco had that McDonald's card where it's he just rolls up and they give him food.
I want free that. McDonald's.
Yeah. I don't need the McDonald's one. I'm trying to avoid that as often as possible. But Starbucks, every once in a while, I drink my calories through coffee, and that's needed.
The Happy Gilmore Subway card, as it were. All right,
I would take that too.
Let's get to this. The 76ers are prepared to extend Jimmy Butler, or at least I'm sure Jimmy Butler's camp would like the Miami Heat to know that. The rumor is, though, that that Jimmy Butler would prefer to get a max extension from the Miami Heat, but he wants a max extension. Whether or not it's from the Miami Heat, that doesn't seem to matter quite as much. He'd prefer it be from the Heat, but he wants it from somewhere. And the report is that the 76ers would be willing to give him that max extension, maybe just for a couple of years, but they would be willing to give him that. And that would be seen as a fallback option for Philadelphia should things not work out with Paul George. So, does this ultimately push the Heat to just give Jimmy the extension that he wants? Who blinks here in this situation?
Yeah, that's the question, right? Who is going to give in? Now, the challenge I think for the Heat is you've already got guys who are signed or need signed soon as well. So like Bam has 2 years left, but he's really full scale extension eligible next year. People have asked if he'll assign an extension this summer. I think he'll probably delay a year to see if he can still get Supermax eligible and try to do that with another big year this year because it's very easy to envision Bam Adebayo making All NBA or maybe even winning Defensive Player of the Year. Like those things are in range. This is not a guy where it's like, well, he's not probably doing those things. So, well, why is he going to wait? That is very easy to see being a thing that could happen. So now you obviously do that, but then you've got Tyler Hero on big money. You've got a couple other guys. And then that turns into where are we going if we lock into Jimmy Butler for 50 plus million a year for as many years as he wants. So I something was weird with that Pat Riley press conference where he kind of called out Jimmy Butler, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was like, dude, you didn't play. I don't want to hear your thoughts on it. That was odd because that's not how they normally do business there. That made me think maybe it's not a lock that this is done, or maybe they're all laughing at us right now and saying, "Man, we're all good, everything's fine, and we're going to extend him." But there were real concerns, I think, at this point, if you're Miami, of how much can you pay him and how much can you trust him to hold up through the life of that extension, and that's the kind of deal that can make things really, really hard on you to build out the rest of the roster, as the Heat have found out at times over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and that's going to be something for them to navigate. I still think ultimately Jimmy Butler he winds up staying in Miami, but it was interesting that Pat Riley didn't seem super thrilled with Jimmy. So who knows where that ultimately goes? And I think that what we're going to see here is, and ironic that it's all kind of centralized here in Florida, but you've got Miami, you've got Orlando. They are going to be seen as, like, Orlando is going to be the boogeyman for any guard out there on the market, right? Malik Monk with his D'Angelo Russell, just about anybody else, Tyus Jones, we'll talk about in a minute. Those camps are going to be saying, well, Orlando needs a guard. They could give us that big offer if you don't, right? Miami, we're going to see Miami kind of put to the test by Philadelphia. Philadelphia is going to be the boogeyman in this scenario. It's going to be, hey, Philly wouldn't mind giving me that max extension, so you'd better do it. And I think Philly's going to play that role also in the Paul George situation with the Clippers. So it's always interesting to see not just where do players land, but who acts as the threat on the market for everybody else to turn to. It's always that team that's got a bunch of cap space where agents will say, you know what, that team's got room. They could sign my guy if you don't give us this much money or the years or whatever it is that we want. So I think that we are in a situation where Philadelphia is going to act as the boogeyman, and we'll see if that's enough to scare the Heat into giving Jimmy what he wants.
And if they don't get either Paul George or Jimmy Butler, it's going to be like every tier 2 free agent is going to be like, well, they could go to Philly and help. They could build a really deep team around Embiid and Maxey, although, they could sign 6 guys for 10, 12 million. And that's how they're going to build out the team. I think what is so unique about this year's free agency, Detroit is the only bad team with cap space this summer. Normally the cap space teams are teams that are rebuilding and teams that are really bad. That's only the Pistons. Philly's a good team. Orlando's a good team. Utah, they're not a good team right now, but could be a good team very easily. Oklahoma City, definitely a good team. And then San Antonio, not a good team, but you have Wemby, and that could turn in the span of a summer. They hit the right moves. Right. They could very easily be in the play-in mix next year. I know, much to the chagrin of the rest of the Western Conference, like, let's speed up the timeline in San Antonio. Everybody's like, we don't really need to do that. Let's give them another year of this. But I think that's the difference, where in a lot of years it's like, all right, well, these 4 terrible teams all have cap space, but who cares? Like, they're not signing major free agents anyway, because nobody wants to go there. They're not going to be active in the trade market for these stars because they don't want to be part of a rebuilding team. All these teams are good, and that makes a major difference on the players they could chase, whether it be through signings or through trades.
Yeah. And so that's going to be a really interesting dynamic to watch play out. We could see, because of that, more players switch teams than we typically would over the course of a summer, because like you said, these are more attractive landing spots than what you would typically see with cap space in a given year. So that'll certainly be something to watch. One guy that the Pacers are hoping does not explore the free agent market, that's Pascal Siakam. The Pacers are reportedly preparing a max offer. When the Pacers traded for Siakam, it was pretty clear they had a good feeling they could keep him, that if they were able to reach the salary that he wanted, he was going to stay. Keith, I think this is going to be one of those, within 10, 15 minutes of free agency officially starting, just to play it safe, it's going to be Pascal Siakam has come to terms on a max deal with the Pacers.
I completely agree. This may even be one where I don't know how the leaking of it will work, but remember, teams can now negotiate with their own free agents when the finals ends. This could even be one where we hear, hey, this is already locked in and done. I think the only real question on this is, does he get a 4-year max or a 5-year max? What does that look like? And if it's a 5-year, is there some form of team protection on that 5th year? Only because he'll be well into his 30s by that point. But those are the only real questions to me is this a 4-year? They're going to give him the max. I think they traded for him knowing that. They have everything set up. He had a great playoff run. He was arguably – Andrew Nembhard got, I think, all the kudos and all the buzz because it kind of came out of nowhere in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Right.
But for my money, the entire run, Siakam was their best player. So I think you feel very comfortable doing that. And I think if you're the Pacers, it's probably kind of a boring offseason. Resign Siakam, resign Toppin, and just kind of wait for internal improvement and build with what you have. I don't think you need to get crazy this summer if you're Indiana. I think it's really just a couple moves around the edges here and there, but re-sign most of your guys and moving forward with that same group.
Yeah, organic growth will be the name of the game before the Indiana Pacers. Yeah. They'll do a couple of things, but probably won't be anything drastic there. Sure. The Wizards are rumored to want to hang on to Tyus Jones, who's going to hit free agency. I'm so confused on what his market will actually be.
Sure.
Because you can look at Tyus Jones in so many different ways. For years there, he was known as the best backup point guard in the NBA and a guy that just needed a shot to start. I don't know how much of it was because he was on the Wizards, how much of it was he just kind of had an okay season this last year. But I don't know what his market value is going to be. I think a team that really needs a guard could pay up to get him. But I could also see where, we're playing musical chairs and the music stops and he's left standing and it winds up just right back with the Wizards. I don't know what's going to happen, but the Wizards would like to hang on to Tyus Jones and would like to keep him. The question is, what's the price tag in order to hang on to him?
Yeah, I think some people look at it and say Tyus Jones had career highs across the board, and that's clearly what him and his reps will be pushing, sure. Right? Like everything were career high numbers, first real chance to start regularly and be the starting guy, and he delivered and played really well. And then you're gonna have somewhere like on a terrible team, and those stats are mostly empty. Where I'll counter that a little bit, because I think the truth, as with most things, falls somewhere in the middle. He shot 49% from the field. That didn't happen because he's on a bad team. He made shots. He shot 41% from 3, which was a career high. He made shots. So I think we're in a spot where those are things that just kind of make sense. Oh, we got some breaking news. You want to?
Oh, should I hit the button?
Yeah.
All right. I don't know. This will be a surprise.
I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
May indeed be horrifying to their crosstown rivals who might have hoped things broke down and they could get them. The Los Angeles Clippers and coach Ty Lue have agreed to a long-term contract that'll make him one of the league's highest paid coaches. So we've been waiting for it.
Go.
There it is. Extension. No word yet on how long or how much, but it's that's out there. So, and apparently it is like done, yeah, because we're already getting tweets about Ballmer and Lawrence Frank and comments and stuff. So So kudos to Ty Lue, and Clippers had said they wanted to get that done. He said he wanted to stay there. Now it's done, and they'll have that locked in. And that's got to be at least some relief of now we can turn to fully to our players. Right
Sure.
now it's not that you can't be doing more than one thing at once, but now it is Paul George, James Harden, Ivica Zubac, who's extension eligible, Terrence Mann, a bunch of guys where it's now we can turn full focus to those guys and get that done. So Ty Lue staying with the Clippers.
And that will put my Lakers will now fully focus on the other candidates without having kind of one eye on the other direction to try to see, does Ty Lue shake loose somehow here? We always had the sense that this was the way it was going to go, and that he was going to agree to an extension with the Clippers. But I think there was some hope that maybe something wouldn't work out there. But now they can move on and focus on the candidates that they've got.
Yep, 5 years per Shams. So presumably added 4 years, would be my guess, on to the year he had left. So, and then that last year's probably team option, like normal. We'll see. But yeah. Okay. So there it is, Ty Lue. So back to the other Tyus Jones that we were talking about.
Well done.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm a real professional. I would be comfortable with contract in the 15 to 20 million a year range. I think. I know people get so like 20 million a year for a backup point guard. Like 20 million a year is not what it used to be. Like that's
Sure.
1/7 of the salary cap. If he's one of your top 7 guys, why not put him in there? So yeah, I would definitely be in favor of that with the Wizards too, because I think that also leaves him very in tradable range. That doesn't trip into the now we can't move him. That leaves him in a range where if you are like, all right, it's best to move him on somewhere else. And another team would look at that and say, all right, starting level point guard, maybe ends up a high minute backup. We're okay with that too. So yeah, I like Tyus Jones quite a bit. I've always been a fan.
Do you like him potentially for Orlando, or does he not fit the backcourt in terms of the defensive concerns?
It's very funny. I don't think he is the prototype for what they generally have gone for, but I do like him for the Magic because I think he would be someone who could really come in, not detract at all from what Banchero and Wagner do, but just get the team into the offense, help create, just make life easier on those guys and Jalen Suggs. And I think he can hold up defensively. Suggs can clearly defend basically anybody 1 through 3 with relative ease. You could find a place to put Jones, where his defense is only okay. It's generally fine against most of the point guards, but you could work around that. And because he's shown this year was a career high, but he's done it in the past, you could see him how well he can shoot off ball. Like just I think that's fine too. I think he'd be a really good fit in Orlando. Doesn't fit what they've gone for. They generally prefer size and wingspan and all that other stuff, but I think he would be a really nice fit in Orlando.
Yeah, and a steadying presence, only 1 turnover per game despite over 7 assists. So that's good work there. Again, he's not the kind of ferocious defender that the Magic have targeted, but maybe the fact that they've got all these guys that can be that would allow him to really fit in well. So I think he's an interesting addition for them potentially. All right,
and won't break the bank too, right? Won't be somebody where it's like, well, there it is. There's all of our flexibility used up for the next 2 years. Like it's you could still do other things around him if that's the direction you went.
All right, we've got Bronny James will indeed be staying in the draft. Clutch Sports agent Rich Paul confirmed that. His draft stock has been on the rise, it seems like. Now it appears that the Lakers at 55 is probably his absolute floor, and it would not be a shock at all. In fact, it's probably more likely than anything else that he goes well before that. There could be even some interest from the Suns at 22. They're bringing him in for a workout. Interesting that he's shut down workouts with teams not named the Lakers or the Suns. Not typically what you see out of a guy he's not a top pick. He's not a top 5 pick or anything like those are the guys you typically see shutting down workouts. But Bronny has to feel pretty confident that he's going to be selected. It'll just be a question of where he ultimately goes and which club takes him. Could you see the Suns taking him at 22? To me, that feels so early.
I would not. That feels too high by like half where his range is. I do think he's now in the middle of the second round, and I do think I can understand the idea of we won't do a two-way contract. I think what happens is we won't do a two-way contract. We'll sign the second round pick exception, and then he's going to log a lot of G League time anyway. Only really 3 or 4 guys out of last year's second round played significant NBA minutes. Most guys, even if they weren't on a two-way, they played in the G League. So I don't think I'm too worried about that part of it. I would not do it at 22. But if you're the Suns and you're kind of looking around and you're like, hey, our best thing is let's take a real lottery pick, meaning lottery ticket almost, not a lottery pick, but like a lottery ticket where like if this hits, we are golden. And maybe you just bet on the pedigree, right? Like, hey, if he ends up good, we're set here with this guy. And if there's nobody else they really like, I mean, heck, they openly said they only scout like 8 players a year. So if they're like, whatever, none of those 8 are there, so might as well take this kid who we know his dad, so let's grab him. I don't know. Yeah, it's like a weird position. I'll say this with Bronny and the whole thing. Couple thoughts on what you said. One about the shutting the workouts down. He did do the pro day, which most teams were at. So what you've really shut down in the workout process is teams don't need to see him go 1-on-0 against the chair and do a bunch of stuff because they did get to go to the pro day and see him there. But what you do miss in that process is the conversation. Like, hey, let's talk. Where's his head at? Well, what's his, kind of thoughts on his game, on where he thinks he sees himself? What position does he think he can play? All of those kind of things. We see it every year, like Boston as the 30th pick. They're going to, when workouts really start coming out here in the next week or so, we're going to find out they worked out a bunch of dudes. They're not going to be in range to draft, but this is the last time you can legally talk to these guys for 4 years. So you want to have that conversation where it is, hey, get to know them. So then if 4 years from now we can trade for the guy, we at least have done some background, started to forge the relationship a little bit. And with Bronny specifically, part of what was written about him is I think ESPN's now moved him into like the 44, 45 range in their top 100. They said he may even move up a few more slots because today, as we record this on Wednesday, the 29th, today's the deadline for NCAA players to withdraw from the draft. So players need to do that today. So if they do that, we're going to be in a position where a few guys may come out that way. We may see a few international players. They have until the 16th of June, 10 days out from the draft, which is the NBA's actual deadline. They can opt out till then. So I think we'll see it be in a position where Bronny will maybe move up a little bit. And now if you're in the mid 40s, you're talking low second round. And that starts to get to be, well, if you really like the player, picking him at 22 that's not absurd anymore. Where if a guy was not even in the top 100, which is where Bronny started this whole process, that gets a little ridiculous. If you're like, all right, we're going to take him, 22nd, that's where it's like, what are you doing? Just sign him as an undrafted free agent. Like, why are we playing this game? But yeah, it's his draft night's going to be an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, and it's certainly one that we're going to be following. I think the one thing that we need to remember too here is that if the Suns are doing this in order to lure LeBron, they can give him a veteran minimum. That's it. There's nothing they can't trade for him. There's nothing they can do. They can't get him in a sign and trade. They can only give him a veteran minimum. And maybe LeBron says, I'm a billionaire with a capital B. Money doesn't matter. And a 5-hour drive down the 10's not a big deal to get back to LA. I'll do it. I'll go play with KD and Devin Booker. Who knows? Maybe he says I'll do that. And that's something that he wants to do. But it's not like the Suns can flip Bradley Beal for LeBron or something like that. They can't do it. The only path to LeBron getting to Phoenix is a veteran minimum contract, and that's it.
I don't know. Maybe they trade KD for him, which I imagine there's a part of you that would do backflips if that was.
But even that they can't do.
That's not going to happen.
They can't sign it. They can't do a sign and trade for LeBron.
No, if LeBron opted in, he'd have to opt in, and then
okay, if
salary for salary. Yeah.
But even then, do they make the exact same amount?
No, but you can make it work because the Lakers would be they're not at the hard cap yet, so they would be
they're above the first tier.
They can get under it though. They're close enough where I mean, I shouldn't even do this. Why are we even playing this?
Well, no, I mean, this is actually good.
And
Just
I
to
did
understand
this too.
some of
You didn't even bring it to me. I started this stupid.
No, I mean, just to get into the cap situation here, because
Sure.
two teams that are above the first tier apron effectively can't trade with each other because
Very
somebody would
hard
take
to.
back more salary.
Yeah. So what would happen is LeBron makes 51.4, KD
Right.
makes 51.2. So from the Lakers side, they're fine taking back less money. So it's really on
Sure.
the Sun side is where it gets messy from that, because they can't take back more than they send out. But maybe they could massage it some way to figure out a way. I mean, I think if we want to, if it was LeBron and KD want to swap sides, I think there's probably a way to figure out a way to make it work. But it's not a thing. I don't even.
No. It's more of a cap question
Sure.
here with what we're looking
No,
at.
that's
I think,
fair. Yeah.
I think ultimately, what would have to happen would be the Lakers would have to drop below the first tier apron, which would mean probably, a goodbye D'Angelo Russell or something like that. Then they'd have to be okay with triggering that hard cap at the first tier by accepting
Sure.
more money.
More
So it would be like KD.
No, they take back less because remember, the Suns
I'm
can't
saying
aggregate. They can't aggregate.
They
players
can't even aggregate. That's right.
So yeah.
So how the hell do you do it?
Yeah, we're not doing. Let's. You know what? Let's pretend. Everybody pretend the last 2 minutes didn't even happen, and I shouldn't have said KD at all. I thought KD made slightly more, which is where then it would make sense. But
Then it would make sense.
Slightly less. So yeah.
But
So
this is
you
good.
can't sign and trade and all that stuff. That can't happen. So
This is good because this is the reality of the new CBA is when we're trying to come up. I've got a lot of people who told me, well, couldn't the Suns just trade Bradley Beal or something for LeBron? No, it's because of the new rules with the CBA. It makes it very difficult for two teams that are above the first tier to trade with each other. And there's teams that are into the second tier, like the Suns. It's even more difficult because you can't even aggregate salaries. It's going to be the reality.
Yeah, if they could aggregate, you get Josh Okogie or Damian Lee to opt in, and you throw them in a trade, and off you go. Like then you could definitely do it. It would cause some potential issues for the Lakers, but nothing. If it was like, hey, LeBron's going to the Suns, you have a chance to get Kevin Durant. Guess what? See you later, Gabe Vincent. We will pay the pick to dump you into somebody's cap space to create the room under the apron to get that done. Like they would make that happen if that's how it was going to be. But yeah, they can't. The Suns can't even aggregate. So. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I legit was like, what the hell are we doing? When somebody made one of those graphics with Bronny was in the middle, and then it was LeBron, KD, Beal, and Booker, and I'm like, so we're really pitching Dad's taking a veteran minimum contract. I mean, I'm not going to rule it out completely, but it is. I will be stunned if we get the Woj bomb that LeBron James has decided to sign for the minimum with the Phoenix Suns. I don't even know. That would be the most absurd thing I could have imagined happening, because he has said so long, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not taking less money because that's not good for everybody. Because if I do it, then everybody's going to expect to do it. And let's face it, this is not LeBron taking the veteran minimum because he's ring chasing and hanging on for one more year to play with his kid. He's still good. Like he's not just, this is not LeBron averages 2.4 points per game and is like hanging out and can barely play. Like then all right, fine. If you wanted to do that, like this is, we spent way too much time on this now.
Yeah, I think, and this is a bigger conversation for another day, but the bottom line is I think this kind of stuff is important because especially this summer, and you mentioned that graphic that's out there, a lot of people don't understand the new rules. And I've been like really, I've been asking you a bunch of stuff. I've been trying to make sure that I understand all these new trade rules that are in place so that I'm not putting out information that's not accurate. Not everybody's going to do that, especially this summer, this being the first time that these new penalties are really kicking in. There's going to be a lot of stuff out there, a lot of graphics and stuff, especially on Instagram, things go around that are in no way possible that are just not accurate because people don't fully understand what the new rules are and what they really mean. So that means it's going to be a busy summer for us because there's going to be a lot out there. I think that rumors are going to pop up and you're going to look at it and go, oh, well, that can't happen, but it could have happened under the old rules. And so I think it's going to be an adjustment period this summer for a lot of that stuff.
So I'll add two things to that. One, It's an adjustment period for us. It's an adjustment period for people in the league. I spent yesterday, I had like a 20-minute phone call with someone who works for a team and does some salary cap stuff. I initiated it because I had a question. And then we went back and forth on something and then ultimately landed with, all right, I think now this is where it really is with this. It was a very nuanced thing. And then we had a conversation a lot like what we just had about like, yeah, some of these new tax rules and apron rules and all that. To add on to that, why it is weird and confusing and all this is all these rules change for next season, but they don't change with next season. They have changed as you were eliminated from the playoffs. You are now working under the new rules. What that did was that closed the loophole of in a very real world, everything we just went through of KD for LeBron couldn't happen. If we were still on the old rules and LeBron opted in ahead of like the league year changing over, that could have happened with no real issue. You could have done it. Could even done the aggregation and all that because that's where it was. But because they made it so the minute your season was over, so Suns and Lakers season's already over, they're operating under the new rules, which is going to make it harder for these teams, as you said, to make those deals. But it's like we're living in two different worlds. Most people have transitioned to the new because no one's really making transactions right now anyway. But it is a whole new set of rules. We went from 4 things that could hard cap a team this season that's wrapping up to 10 items hard cap teams.
It's crazy.
Now, like it's like that. That's how complicated it's gotten.
It is, like you said, it's going to be an adjustment. It's going to be fascinating to see how teams react. And I can only imagine the shenanigans we would have seen had it been like July 1st is when the rules kick in. We would have seen so much business get done like June 29th, June 30th, like it all would have been, squeezed in under the old rules. But all right,
we've got one more. Bronny's staying in the draft.
Bronny's staying in the draft. That's where we landed. All right.
It was a headline topic that we talked about for a minute.
This is good. This is important, though. People need to know this stuff. People need to know this stuff.
For sure. I agree.
All right. Sam Presti said he missed on the Gordon Hayward trade.
Sam Presti's not wrong.
Yeah, it didn't.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a good fit, too. I thought it was going to work out, but just didn't work for the Thunder. But I think the bigger sin for the Thunder was not missing on Gordon Hayward. It was not adding another big. That wound up being a problem for them. And that's part of why they're going to be in the mix when we talk about Isaiah Hartenstein and Jonas Valanciunas and Nick Claxton and any of the, the bigs that are out there on the market. Maybe they're a landing spot for Jared Allen in a trade or something. I think they're going to right that wrong this summer. But yeah, they missed on the Gordon Hayward trade, but I don't think Sam Presti should beat himself up too much. Like, I get why they did it. It made sense, I thought, at the time, but it's also kind of refreshing to hear somebody just say, yep, it didn't work out. I missed on that one rather than trying to spin it in their favor.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Too often we get the, let me give you 10 excuses on why it didn't work out. I don't understand what happened here fully. Yes, there's the idea that he maybe wasn't fully healthy. I get that part of it. I don't know that Gordon Hayward is ever going to be fully healthy again. He may feel better at times than he does at other times, but I don't think that's where we're getting Gordon Hayward at this point in his career. But when I look at it, played 17.2 minutes per game in the regular season in 26 games with the Thunder. He actually shot okay, shot 45% overall, 52% from 3. Problem was he only took 4 shots per game. So his role was really go spot up, and if it comes your way, you can shoot it. But he didn't do much else. And this is a guy who is really his entire run since he came to prominence with the Jazz has been, I get the ball and I get to do some stuff with it. Like that. And Gordon Hayward, even in the Charlotte years on some bad teams, he was still pretty efficient. It was still a pretty good playmaker, pretty good rebounder. Defense really slipped after he broke his leg with Boston. He's never gotten back to being the good defender that he was. But I thought this was going to be the solution to no one's guarding Josh Giddey. I thought it'd be then you put Hayward in and off we go. And it just never really worked. I don't fully know why, but Sam Presti is absolutely spot on. It didn't. And here we are. Now, I think he also said, I'm very much paraphrasing, so I apologize because I couldn't find the quote I was just looking for. But he basically said, like, now it's on us to use that slot, like to do something. So they've got 35 million in cap space. And what makes them super scary is 35 million in cap space without like 10 needs to fill. Like they can be super aggressive in targeting one player to go get, and that's huge. That's going to be such a major difference for them compared to like Philly, who has almost double the amount of cap space, but has to fill 15 roster spots. Like that's much harder to do than what Oklahoma City is doing. So that's frightening, quite honestly, for everybody else. That they were pretty good, they were close, and now hey, let's go do this. Like that's gonna be something to watch for sure.
And this is the time to do it while you've got these guys, Chet, Jalen Williams, like these guys are going to eventually cost you a lot, right? So you've got to, if you're going to have the room to do it, now's the time. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think the Thunder are going to be a fascinating landing spot, and they're watching how they maneuver this summer. It's going to be kind of fun because it's not one of those situations where it's, they can't give that much. So that means they're out on this guy, this guy, this guy. It's more, we can look at all of these guys. Maybe not. Who knows? I guess they could look at Paul George, right? If Paul George wants to come back into town. But I was going to say they're not going to be like a Jimmy Butler landing spot or something like that, like the top tier guys. But some of those bigs that are out there on the market, they could certainly be in the mix for any number of guys that are maybe just below that star tier. But you know what? If Paul George called up Sam Presti and said, "Hey, how about a return?" I'm sure they could figure out a way to make that work too. So the Thunder have a lot of possibilities in front of them.
They could do a sign and trade, right? They could get him to a sign and trade. And then what they're offering the Clippers is, hey, here's a whole bunch of salary relief. Oh, do you want 7 draft picks, including a couple of your own back? Okay, sure. Like, let me dip into the ATM of draft picks and do a withdrawal, and I'll put it in an envelope and mail it to you. Like, they can do that. They can also offer up, okay, you want 2 young players that are on our roster too? All right, fine, no problem. Off they go. Like if that's where they wanted to go. If they I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but let's say Minnesota was like, we got to trade Cat. Like they come out of this series, and Oklahoma City's like, you know what, we'd like to have Cat. That could happen. My personal favorite target is go get John Collins. Like I think he would fit so perfectly with this team as someone who could play with Chet Holmgren and also play as his backup. Like some have disagreed with me on that. I just think he'd be great. And I'd love to see John Collins on a team full of pretty good passers get back to being like the lob finisher that he was in Atlanta for a while with Trae Young. But regardless, they may even be saying, we don't need a big. We like Chet at the 5 because that's a mismatch nightmare for most other 5s. What we think we need is another wing, and a wing that can really make shots at a higher level than Josh Giddey. Then you go get a wing. Like they're in position to do anything. And the point you made of, you got to do it now. If not now, it has to be next summer. Because after that, they could legitimately be a team with 3 max guys, with Holmgren, Jalen Williams, and SGA all on max deals. And then once you're there, it's going to be really hard to add that talent from outside.
Yep. You got to get it done now while those guys are on cost-controlled contracts.
Yep.
All right. I think that about does it for today. Make sure you guys do subscribe to the channel. You guys know we're going to keep you up to date on everything going on around the world of the NBA, especially heading into what's going to be a busy summer. So again, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications as well. Till tomorrow, everybody. See ya and stay safe.